Okay, we are live. Hi, Kyle Ma Kangjie. That's your real name.
Hi, Keith. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today, and I'm so excited to talk to you because I've been here. I moved here from Taiwan since 2004, and it's been many years. And I live in Utah, so I don't really have a lot of people or friends from Taiwan around here.
hmm
So it's always cool to meet someone who's from Taiwan and just kind of get to connect.
Yeah, same for me. I'm glad to see another Taiwanese person in the art world.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't consider myself in the art world quite like you because you're just so great at what you do,
Thank you.
and your skill level is like way up here. So that's why I'm very proud of you. Just kind of seeing how far you've come, and with all the shows going on, and you're in many galleries too, and your stuff is selling pretty well too. So to me, that's a great accomplishment. Just given our background, we kind of it's not an easy road,
hmm
but let's get into your journey to become an artist more today. And of course, we have people watching live, and as they they ask questions, we can kind of just I'll relay those questions.
Yeah,
So, well, first of all, why don't you kind of give us a little bit background information about just who you are, where you come from, and then kind of ease into your path finding this artistic journey, like your career or training and all that stuff.
sure. So I guess to kind of summarize, I was also born in Taiwan, and when I was very young, about 3 or 4 years old, I actually received a book on the work of Claude Monet,
Ooh,
and I didn't know anything about art, obviously, but I was flipping through the pages, and I was really amazed that this was something that you're able to actually create in paint. And I remember like there was one painting, the Impression Sunrise. I that painting just reminded me a lot of like going to the beach and watching the sunset, and I thought like he captured it spot on. And so I would get crayons and do a lot of drawings and see if like I'm able to like replicate the things I was seeing, kind of like Monet, see like if I can be truthful. And I would draw like what I see around me, and draw a lot of trees. And so also in Taiwan, I was able to like see a couple of shows from paintings borrowed from around the world. And so I just saw that there were a bunch of these oil paintings. I remember really clearly, like there was one where of an impressionist show from borrowed from the Philadelphia Museum of Art. I saw when I was around 9 years old,
and
and
where was that?
that was in Taipei.
Is it Gugong?
Um, it might have been, or I'm not sure. It also could have been. There's this like Taipei Museum of Art.
Okay, just
Yeah,
for the viewers out there, if they're in Taiwan, they will know where to go to see these great life-changing art shows.
yeah, and then so it's when I was 10 years old. Like me and my family moved to the United States, and that's around the time that I also decided to get into painting. But I like besides going to museums and taking some art classes that are like they're more for fun.
Yeah.
So and I didn't really know anything. So I got started in oils, and I got for about 1 or 2 years it got really frustrating, and then until I and then I met a teacher here in Austin,
Yeah.
name's Elizabeth Locke, and so she really like opened my eyes to like, what I'm able to achieve through teaching me the fundamentals. She started from drawing. So first day I learned how to learn using a charcoal and learn perspective, how to and drawing these geometric shapes, how to take measurements, and then we gradually like progress through to learn about values. So like and then we learned about color theory. So at that point, I felt like a lot of the things like started to make more sense, and I was going to the museums and starting to see things differently, like able to understand how some of the things were achieved, and like be able to appreciate more that the fundamentals that these artists have put in, rather than only looking at the surface stuff like color, brushwork, which that's important too, but I think it's maybe not as easily to tell the things that went behind being able to let the color and brushwork shine through. And so after that, I just like I read a lot of books on art, and went to lots of workshops and DVDs, and lots of trial and error at home to gradually hone my skills.
So that is about, you say about 10 something. So this is like your early teens, right? You start getting some really good training, because based on what you said, you got a good mentor there, because you're not going right into the fancy stuff. You're getting the fundamentals. And I'm sure that really play out well down the road. All this fundamental training is getting you a solid foundation to do a lot of these other, like this landscape we're seeing here. It looks complicated, it's beautiful, and your eye will get drawn to the colors and the big, all these cliffs, but at the same time, you build it up like stroke by stroke with all these basic things, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that is really good to see. Like, it's not like there's some magic formula. You're just born with a paintbrush in your mouth and you become this genius painter. Just because I know you're still young. You're still in school, right?
Yeah, I'm in university right now.
Yeah. But you're working on your solo show, like you say. Yeah. So that's quite an accomplishment. You're still in school, and you are not majoring in fine arts, right?
No, I'm majoring in geology.
That's cool. That's why I love this painting right here, because in some ways you kind of know it by heart, what rock form or whatever it is there, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I couldn't.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, you know the rocks really well, because I saw you posted something the other day, ask what kind of rock you're painting.
Yeah.
That's really cool, because a lot of times when an artist finds their voice is through their background story, right? Your childhood, or even your passion, or even right now what you're studying in college, and they'll kind of translate through your interest or your other knowledge that you learn from this other major, that you can translate into your art and just kind of somehow find your voice in a way. So to kind of get more into your development and finding your voice, what is the strongest memory of your childhood? If there's anything like that will kind of like have a good impact on your art and your artistic voice.
In terms of like a strong memory that impacted my artistic voice, I guess I kind of talked about it already. It's that exhibition of works from the Impressionist, and I remember there was this one painting in particular that was by Monet. It's of a sunset, and then there are a few sailboats in the foreground, and And then I think part of what makes it so striking is that he really didn't just paint objects.
Yeah.
He kind of saw everything as shapes. So these sailboats, they part of it kind of melts away into the clouds and into the surrounding areas. But then because his values and drawing were accurate, it still reads well as a sailboat, and it also fits in very well within this larger context of this landscape in the evening.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you kept. Like a lot of people, they see that and get inspired to want to capture it, the impression of the scenery, right? So you're not really drawing a boat or drawing a house. You're really just kind of capturing all of the negative, positive shapes, and that's a lot of shapes, and just like you said, drawing, and even, of course, the value play in a really big role in impressionist paintings. You got to get the values right, otherwise it's not going to work. You just look like a bunch of random things going on, right? So we see here there's a painting by you. It's a not quite a sailboat, but it's some type of fishing boat.
Yeah.
And there's mountain scenes, and that really reminds me of home. I'm from Kaohsiung. It's like it's a harbor city, right? Like it's by the ocean. And did you grow up by the ocean? Or I see a lot of these water or boat scene that you're doing kind of for your solo show and stuff, or even in the past. Are you trying to capture some of the sceneries that you grew up in that short amount of time in Taiwan, or what are your inspirations?
Yeah, so this one, that scene is in Geelong.
That's what I was thinking. Totally, you got it just spot on.
Oh, great! That's great to hear. So,
no, if you've been to Geelong, you'll know that is the Geelong-gang. It's different from the Kaohsiung-gang. It's different, and that's why I can tell it's because of the mountains, right?
Wow, that's impressive.
No, if you look at Kaohsiung-gang, it's more like flat, wide open with more of the steel boats. Because Kaohsiung-gang, it's got a lot of cargo boats. But in Geelong-gang, it's more like a fishing boats. It's Yichun, right? It's a fishing village. So there's more of the Geelong, the mountains and the fog. And you capture that fogginess in this painting with even the boat. If you go to Qijin, the fishing boat, I can tell there's a difference between Qijin and here. But that's just me. Like, that's how much your work is touching my heart, or even bringing back the memory. And I just want to kind of let you know that you accomplished that. Maybe you know, maybe you didn't know, but good job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
it's really nice to hear, like from someone who has actually been there to say that it captures that area. So I guess a little bit about this painting. So the colors I chose they're not really the colors that were actually there. So it was a nocturne scene. So I wanted to use that opportunity to explore a different color harmony, and so I went with green. And I think having kind of an analogous color harmony, it shows this feeling of this humid atmosphere. Like there's a lot of light that's bouncing around the water vapor. So I feel like choosing green, like even it's different from what I see, it works well as a color harmony for this painting.
And it's not even just like a cooler green. I would say the green is towards a bit on the warmer side, right? And that's what it is there. You have to be in Taiwan to know what humid means. Like really, right? You don't know what humidity is until you live there. And because of that atmosphere is not going to be the colder green. It's that the color choice you picked here, the warmer green, really kind of make me feel that moisture in the air and all of this stuff you're trying to capture. It's just spot on. And just like you were mentioning, a lot of this is through kind of experimentation, right? You don't really know unless you try it out. So do you have any techniques or even just your process of experimenting different colors or try to capture a different scene? And like there's another painting you did of Jiufen, that mountain village. It's kind of the same thing. Like you got to really experiment to push and pull a lot of elements in the scene to capture exactly what you want to tell in the painting. And I think that's one of your strengths is you did so well with experimentation of creating a mood with unconventional colors. And can you kind of walk us through maybe your training or what is going through your head to create such a strong skill set in such a young age?
Sure. So I think with this experimenting part, it has to do with somehow going beyond painting what we see and like recreating what's out there into our own interpretation. And I believe to be able to do that, it requires a deeper understanding of your subject. And so I think studying geology and like as a geology major, we take classes in chemistry, math, and physics as well. So we kind of get a well-rounded education in the sciences. And so definitely knowing a little bit about the scientific background, especially like knowing how light works, that really helps a lot in being able to be more imaginative if you have some kind of knowledge about what your subject is.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That's kind of like what Brian Martelli was telling us about finding your voice, right? A lot of people, a lot of artists, they struggle with finding their voice, and there are many ways to find it. Don't get me wrong. There are so many different ways to find it. You know, by copying master work, you could potentially find your voice as like a Sargent-like painter, or some of them, from Brian's perspective, who you are and your interest, what you love in life, that will translate into your artwork. And just kind of echo with what you said, your knowledge of geology, of all the elements that you're capturing, you have even deeper knowledge of these things. You know how the rock form was created, and there's different pressure on the earth, and all that stuff will create, say, St. George, Utah, there's red rocks, and there's a reason why it's red. And that knowledge could really help you to push that red cliff color to even more saturated, whatever it is, right? So for any viewers out there, if you are kind of in the phase of finding your voice, it's a good way to kind of look into your own life and discover your passion instead of having that money pressure. Feel like, oh, I need to have my voice so I can get into a gallery, then I can make money. If you do it that way, it's gonna be even harder.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what killed my creativity. Is back then when I was first married, we had our first kid, and I tried to do my own studio. I was able to paint, commission portraits before just fine, but then when I tried so hard to make almost like commercial art, I couldn't paint anything. Like nothing seemed interesting to me because the pure purpose of creating this painting is to sell, and they just basically killed everything. So that's the reason why I dropped out. But for you always have this kind of passion. Even like this scene is in Taiwan, and I've seen you have other landscape scenes that's from all over the place, and you are able to kind of pursue that love for, like you said, that ocean, sunset, or whatever that make a good impression on you, and you kind of take it from there, and you're able to kind of start to create your style in a way, right?
Right.
So what kind of work do you enjoy the most? So we see you have this type of work, and of course you're still life flower is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this cow painting. The light and shadow is just strong. I love it. When I saw it, I just fell in love with it. So you kind of have different subject matters,
Mm-hmm.
portraits, and all over the place. I mean, it's good for younger artists to kind of experiment, but you do so well too. That's the thing is, it's hard to see someone with all different subjects, but also do so well in everything. So, do you have something that you just enjoy more than others?
No, I really enjoy painting all subjects equally, I would say.
Yeah.
Because it's more of this challenge of sorting through when I see of subjects, looking at what would be a good design, and then what's a good concept, and breaking it down into the fundamentals, and then after that, like figuring out how I can like, use my interpretation to hopefully elevate that into a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
So I really just enjoy the process. So I don't really have a preference in subjects.
So it's really the journey that you enjoy better than the destination in a way, right? And like what you're saying, like when you're creating a piece of art, the reason why it's a great piece of art is because you make your artistic decisions to alter the scene, or even let's look at this cow painting. You compose it in a way, and a lot of people will say composition number one rule you want to avoid is have stuff in dead center, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of bold move for a composition element to kind of place a cluster of cow right there in the dead center. However, if we look at it, you do kind of place it strategically that the highlight it's really almost at the golden proportion, like 1/3 of the height. And also you split the scene to kind of space things out the way you have all the three cows with different poses, and then you have a little bit atmosphere back to the farmhouse. And I even see you use edges to create sharper edge to create a foreground to even give it more depth. Can you kind of walk us through some of the creative process when you were designing this scene? Because I can tell you put a lot of effort in this. To me, it's a masterpiece. It's just so well executed. But I just want to kind of pick your brain on your process.
I mean, some of it, I guess, I got a little bit lucky on because I was photographing these group of cows, and they already were in some pretty good positions. So I didn't actually have to do too much for it.
You didn't post the cows?
So what I did was I actually removed a couple of cows from the composition to like make it a little bit simpler.
Yeah.
And then in the foreground, I made sure that I had plenty of space so that I can create this. And so with the grass in the foreground, like that creates this foreground element that contrasts with things that are more far away. And if you look at this painting in person, though, it's a fairly big painting. It's 36 by 48 inches.
Wow.
And if you go up close and you will see there's a lot of color and texture that's kind of impossible to show in the photograph. There's a lot of areas where the paint is really thick. I use a palette knife, and so I guess part of that was inspired by some paintings I saw at the Metropolitan Museum in New York, particularly by Lepage. And so the idea was I wanted to create a painting that had a lot of impact when you are from far away. So this one, that's where like moving these cows around and having this strong lighting comes into play. But then when you get close, you're rewarded with some additional surprises in these spots of color and texture that difficult to notice when you are far away.
Yeah. And where is this painting right now?
This is one of my pieces for the solo show I have in next month at the Wilcox Gallery.
So we get to see it in person.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So everybody out there, just make sure you go follow Kyle Ma on his Instagram or even his website and sign up, for his newsletters, or even if you want to learn something, he's got a DVD out there. You can really learn a lot from him. And if you're in the area, I would really highly recommend you to kind of pay a visit to this painting, plus the other ones. We can really see what he's talking about. You'll get a lot of rewards, right? See all the things that we don't get to see on the photograph.
Yeah, always different seeing paintings in person.
Yeah. And let's talk about like your creative process, like some research. For example, some of the things is more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And do you do some type of research? For example, like you said, you go to museums, or even you do some master study, plein air study. Like, what is your research process to create some of these more of a complete studio piece?
So something I do a lot is doing small color sketches. And when I have when there's a big painting I'm planning, and I would try to see what things are going to be difficult that I might run into when I create this larger piece. And so if I can figure out in advance in a small format as a color study, it's going to save me a lot of time and a lot of work if I already figured some things out, so that the process can go a lot more smoothly.
Yeah. So it's not like you just take a photograph and then just jump right into 30 by 40 and complete a big painting, right? There's a lot of...
Sometimes.
Yeah. So when you, let's see, so even though you're still in school, but you've been painting since you were a kid, so in a way you got a lot of mileage under your belt. At what point did you start kind of develop your art career, like starting to become more... I in my eyes, I totally see you as a professional artist, even though you're a college student, you have a different major you're trying to complete, but in the art world, you got quite a bit of award and recognition. At one point, did you jump in and say, I'm gonna develop an art career?
I think around when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
That was when I got into my first gallery, the Wilcox Gallery.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually kind of an interesting backstory to how that came about. It was when I was 14, I went to the Jackson Hole area, and I just saw that there were lots of galleries around the town square. So I went to each one, went to look at their art and some chat with the owners and stuff. And I saw there was Wilcox Gallery, and actually my plein air easel was made by Jim Wilcox. So I kind of figured out that was the connection. And so I just went in and talked to them, and then like asked them about how do I better use this easel, and the person there at the time was Eric, so he's Jim Wilcox's son, and so so he kind of got curious because like, it's probably not every day you have like a
Yeah.
14-year-old person walking into a gallery asking for easel advice. So
Yeah, right. Unless you use it a lot.
yeah. So basically he looked at my work and then he set me up to like, go visit Jim Wilcox and let him take a look at my work as well. And so they gave me some advice, say something like, "Oh, you'll be really good in 10 years." And the next year actually, so I just kind of kept in touch with them on Facebook. I didn't ask for anything like gallery representation or anything like that. Just like that, I would just post my work sometimes, and they would see it. So then when I was 15 years old, I I happened to be in that area again, taking a workshop. So I went to visit Wilcox Gallery again to say hi, and so they actually at that point decided to take me on as part of their roster.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm really grateful that like, they took a chance on me, and so after that, a lot of good things seemed to happen. Like I got a few magazine articles which kind of introduced me to some other galleries and collectors. So I guess that was kind of the point that I got into this, like getting involved in the art world.
Yeah. And that is actually a great story, and it's inspiring in a way that many artists out there, they especially fine artists, right? They always ask this question like, how do I get into galleries? But at the same time, most of them, they kind of don't have the guts to just walk into a gallery and talk to the owner and just kind of, if here's the thing, if you want to get in, it's gonna be a long-term relationship, and you're gonna be very comfortable talking to the owner for a long time for the next couple of years to come, because you gotta have that
Yeah.
relationship, right? What sells, what doesn't sell, what works, what not. And if you are not even gonna be able to go and say hi in the beginning, how is that relationship gonna work, right? It's gotta kind of like be genuine, like what you were. You just wanted to. I mean, I give you kudos on the strategic part. Like you connected the dots, and a lot of people really don't think too much when they go out there. Just kind of knock on every door or whatever it is. But there's some connection, like what you discover. It's a good conversation opener, and
Yeah.
you just got to put yourself out there, not in a way that you just go knock on every door, but more of a genuinely get to know the gallery without that pressure of getting in. Just get to know them. You know, if you get to talk to the owner, great, but not like scared, but more of a, hey, I would like to know more about your gallery, and you get to know them. And if they're interested in you, they'll let you know they're interested in you. If they think you're not ready, they'll let you know you're not ready. But if they're a good gallery, they'll tell you how to get ready. And that's the important part, is it's not just about getting in a gallery or getting any gallery. You want to get in a gallery where they will mentor you or career in a way. Like, for example, this gallery, they, in a way, they mentor you for that whole year, right? If they didn't tell you what to do to get better, you would just leave the gallery, like, you know, maybe not do much to get better or get ready, but they kind of guided you, and then just kind of things start to, because, you know, like in a way, galleries, they want good artists, right? So if they see someone with great potential, they would rather keep you closer than just cut you off.
Yeah.
So that's kind of through a lot of interviews we did with gallery owners, that's kind of also what we see from, you know, top art galleries. That's how they treat their artists. Is it's a family, right? So let me see someone. Let me. Elliot over here is giving us a couple feedbacks. I don't know if it's more of a question or more of a facts. So I'm gonna type it in here so you can see it.
Okay.
That way you can decide if you want to elaborate on what he's talking about here, or we want to kind of keep going with our curiosity. So I know you're working on your solo show right now. Is there a dream project that you wish that you could work on?
Yeah, actually, I've been thinking recently about like most of my shows so far. They have a broad range of subject matter, and they're about showing like all the things I can do. But maybe if I work on a body of work where I study one particular subject more in depth, and maybe something like a series of with geological landforms, and I do like some paintings of like close-ups and some paintings of seeing like these bigger landscapes. So like a series where I just study like one particular subject in depth, I would say, or it's an idea I have.
So there's a kind of funny question that just popped up. Someone, I don't know if you know this person or not, Michael Gutierrez.
Yeah.
I guess you know him.
Yeah.
Based on the intimacy of the question, I guess you guys know each other because you're saying like talk about calculus and art, Kyle. So I kind of basically told him that don't get me started on calculus because I can really get him working on some code and numbers right now. So I don't know if we want to jump into that, but just to show how we grew up in Taiwan, we don't use calculators, by the way. And I don't know about you, I grew up with abacus, 算盘, and that's how we do numbers. So I think we're on a kind of different level here when we talk about mathematical skills, right?
I guess I moved to the United States before the math got too advanced, so I got to use some calculator.
Oh, lucky you! You really did? Oh man, I did not punch my first graphing calculator until I moved here, and I was 24, 5, 6, and I have to take a lot of. I went to college again over here because they wouldn't recognize my degree in Taiwan. Mm-hmm. So I was in business school, so we have to take business calc, and they kind of like, well, you need to take, math 101, algebra, and blah, 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 all that stuff. So I was kind of like, well, I took all that in like middle school, high school. Why do I need to take it again in college? They say, well, you can test out. So I tested it out, and it's like 20 questions, and it took me like no time, and I aced it. So I jumped all the way to business calc. And when I took business calc, I was sitting there listening to the instructors, and then I was doing my first exam, and everybody's punching the thing, and I kind of grab it and I try to use it, but I really didn't know how because I never used it before. I just hand calculated everything and turn it in. And anyways, that was kind of funny because the instructor, she's from Romania, and she's the same way. She never learned how to use calculator, and she's kind of like just try to pick bones out of the eggs. I try to deduct points, but I aced every single exam all the way through the whole course. But that's a side story since he mentioned calculus. But I'm guessing he's your college friend.
Yeah.
How is his art and calculus since he's so interested?
Oh, so basically I think of it in when I'm trying to draw something. It's we think of when we listen to people talking about how to draw, they say like break things down into straight lines. So yeah. I was thinking, these curves, they can be very difficult to replicate, but if you can find at one point what what is that slope at that one spot, and then how is that slope changing? So that goes to like the concept of derivative, right? Like, and then that the second derivative. So like, is it concave up or concave down? And so
oh my, we're talking. Yes, and then you got to find the tangent line and all that.
Yeah, so we can. So I kind of use some of those concepts when I'm trying to get accurate drawing, and it does help a lot.
Yeah, because if you look at this rose painting,
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of mathematical metrics behind it. If you really look at it, because it's kind of hard to explain, because to me, numbers, they are more of a logic than calculation. So if you're good at numbers, doesn't mean that you are a human calculator. That just means you're able to see the patterns better. And kind of like what you're saying, you're starting to see an image, not in a way that is like a formula, but more of a way to see patterns. And if there's any tangent lines line up, or even, concave up or down, or, does it curve in, does it bow out? All those things, they're actually like a calculus graph there.
Definitely.
And I'm looking at this right now, just kind of started going in that direction. Like there's the trend line going up and down. And anyways, I don't want to get too caught into that, but I guess your friend know you really well.
Yeah.
So when you study art, how do you acquire skills and then to feel your improvement in, I wouldn't say such a short time, because you've been painting for over 10 years, but from a grand scale of things, you're still pretty young. And if you just kind of do the Bob Ross approach, happy clouds, that kind of stuff, your improvement is not going to be the same as what we see here, right? So
yeah,
through your whole process, is there any tricks? I get it, there's no shortcut, but there's a smarter way. For example, the calculus example, there's a smarter way for you to see things better, to understand a scene better, to improve better. So what is your secret in that?
Well, I think it is to always understand concepts fully, because I think if you understand concepts only partially, you're going, and then you start to apply shortcuts and rules, and they're going to be helpful in some cases, but then when these shortcuts don't apply, you're going to get confused.
Yeah.
And so I guess like a good example of that is thinking about atmospheric perspective. If you actually understand the physics behind it, you're not going to be confused when you say, the rules are, say things are blue in the distance, and then you get more other colors in the foreground, and then you get to a sunset, and then that doesn't follow those rules. And so I would say in general, when you're learning art, if someone tells me some kind of formula, I always dig deeper and investigate like the reasoning behind what that person is saying, and then ask myself, are there situations where this idea is going to fail?
Yeah, everything has a exception, right? Yeah, so that's very scientific. Like art, it's almost like science in a way. If you look at Da Vinci, he's a perfect example of art and science, or even math, all blend together. And the reason why he's able to be such a great artist and inventor is because he kind of cross over between the two sides of the brain, like use artistic skills to help with scientific inventions, and use scientific methods to help with the art. And like you said, don't stick to a specific formula, because a lot of people ask Brian, like, oh, you mean warm light, you kind of apply that 1 + 1 = 2, but when it comes to the exception that breaks the rule, then they don't know what to do.
Right.
Yeah. So that is definitely a really great advice. And that's kind of how I learned too. When I learned stuff, I would dig deeper. And my mentor back in business school, he said, don't take things at face value. Don't just take what people present
Mhm.
you. Like, dig deeper, question everything, challenge everything. When someone tells you the number is 20, then you ask, why is it 20? Why is it not 30? And same thing with the painting, right? Like you
Yeah.
lay down a stroke, you say, why do I put that rose petal down with pure white? Why is it not cooler or warmer? Why?
Yeah.
And when you ask a lot of questions, that's when you will see great improvement because you're really digging deep.
Hmm.
Like kind of like what you were saying earlier, it's not just the superficial things, not the pretty colors, not the texture, but more behind the scene, the compositions, or why do you put these roses clustered together to create that slope 45.6-degree angle sloping upwards, but then cut it down with the other offset rows on the other side to create, you have a zigzag, right? You go up, but then when
Yeah.
you come down, you have a more of a downward slope, and then you go back up again. So to me, that's a trend line you're designing right there.
Hmm.
But then if you look at it closer from the first big rows to the second one, it's a little bit off, not straight on. So there's a lot of these scientific things that you're playing in your paintings. And I think that's why a lot of your work is so strong because you take it to that next level.
And thank you. Yeah, I think that's definitely accurate. Just being like having a reason behind everything I do in a painting instead of just saying like, okay, if I do this, it might look good. And so that's not always good enough. You want to like see ask yourself, why does that look good, and if I do it another way, like, could it be better?
Mm-hmm. Like just through experiments and trial and error.
Hmm.
So, um, since you have an earlier start in your art career, have you been doing some? Because every artist is somehow, in a way, a entrepreneur, right? You are your own boss, or you have your own business. Did you learn anything like business wise through this whole thing, or just how do you manage all of these career wise things?
Um, I don't think I have too much knowledge about the business side, but I think like some things I learned was just like, when I if I want make a commitment, I have to make sure that it's actually something that I can do and do well on, so not going around and saying yes to everything. Like think of a long-term strategy. Like, is by doing this, is it gonna be helpful for me in the long run?
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm teaching in our business school is that I call it the vision driven strategy, right? A lot of people
Hmm.
they do things as short term, like how can I replace my income when COVID-19 hits? How can I make good money right now through say like Patreon account or DVDs deal, whatever it is? How can I just do this short term cash gain? But they don't look at it in the long run and say, am I playing this in a long game? Like 10 years down the road, do I have a brand out there that will help me to establish my brand and all that stuff? But
Hmm.
when you switch that perspective and then have a vision driven strategy, you say, all right, I know where I want to be in 5 years. You're able to get there. Like right now, you're like 20, like 20 what?
20.
20, 20?
Yeah.
There's no what? Just 20. So you're 20, but you already kind of get that first 5 years of the career out of the way. And now you can work on your next 5 year goal and just keep going with that. And then you can make huge strides with that kind of strategy and accomplish your goals because you are driven. You know where you're going long for that long term vision. So that would be a really great advice for a lot of students out there. If you're thinking about, like you don't know what to do, well, look. down the road and say, what do you want to be in 5 years? And use that start to kind of drive your current goal and so on. So do you know Scott Jones?
Mm-hmm.
He's here. So he just basically typed a comment. He's looking forward to he's actually going to spend his wedding anniversary on June 26th at your opening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. And I know Scott, he's a great guy with a tons of knowledge, willing to share and mentor established and emerging artists. So it's really great that he's been tuning in with what we're doing here. And he said, good for you for continuing to paint such a wide variety of subjects and experimentation. And I think that's not just art, but also life too, right? You gotta just try all different things out. And you go back to your scientific method, you form your hypothesis, and then you test it and analyze the result. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then you tweak it and just keep going. And in a way, painting is just like that, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty logical in a way. Like if your shape is off, then correct it. If it's too long, then make it shorter. If it's too red, make it less red. And I would say just a lot of fundamental trainings, train your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is another trick is learn how to see. A lot of artists, they can't, because back in the days when I was in school, I do portraits, right? And then I'll have my painting here, and then I have someone else's painting, and then it really bugs me when I see there's another painting there, and then seriously that the eyes, one is here and one is here, and it's like so off. But that student just doesn't know what's wrong, and they just keep going with it. But then it's driving me nuts on the other side of the room, because I turn around and just see there's a guy with two eyes like off, or their head is like way too wide, and they just keep going with it, and they don't know what's wrong too. Like, they would ask our mentor and say, like, help me out, but then he kind of just scratched his head like, do you not see it's off? But then they're kind of like, no. So is there any training you received to train your eyes to, train how to see things that you can share with us?
So, well, that actually, in practice, I find that to be a pretty common thing is to when I'm in the heat of the moment, I make these mistakes, and I don't really realize that until afterwards. I look at the painting and I'm like, wow, what was I thinking? So to help with that, I guess something I do a lot is I just take pictures of my work, so I can kind of see it on a smaller screen, and also looking at things in a mirror.
Yeah,
that helps. If like the image in reverse looks wrong, then that means if it's seen in normal, it means it's wrong too. So the big thing is just getting away from just seeing one part of the painting and evaluating the painting as a whole, and how everything is working. So if say like you're painting an eye, you have to think of the bigger context, and you see a lot of people maybe paint the eye, the cornea looks too light and there's too much contrast, because they don't really consider that the eye has to fit within this eye socket, and then these muscles that go around the eye, and they just focus on trying to get these details. So they focus more on like getting like eyelashes and stuff, but they forget this bigger structure of this whole head. So that's something that I always try and keep in mind of, is just always look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, That's a really great advice. And in fact, let me look at our calendar because I totally forgot. I think it's sometime in July. You're gonna do a free demo for us, right?
Mhm.
Let me look at the date just so people, since now we kind of get them itchy, wanting to know um, your secrets. July 27th, that's the date. July 27th, 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You will do an hour. I mean, it's really short, but it's what we've been kind of doing lately to kind of help people to improve more and really kind of get to know every artist
Mhm.
better. So it's a free event like this, just a live streaming, and we'll watch Kyle show us his tricks. And we really appreciate your willingness to kind of spend an hour with us, talk about all this, in a way, nerdy things, but
Mhm.
eye-opening because I always enjoy talking art, talking business, and talking numbers.
Yeah.
In a way, that's just how my brain works. But I can see there's a deeper meaning in your work, and I 100% respect that because I know even just with short couple years growing up in Taiwan, there's a lot of just the culture. Being growing up there, it's quite different from growing up here. Just the way parents or even just society, family, the jiazu, right? Like when we talk about family, we're not talking about the family here in America. It's more like jiazu, that idea of family is like your aunts, your uncles, everybody, like the whole gang is part of it. A lot of that come into play, and I just want this to be somehow make its way back to Taiwan and help a lot of younger artists to see that you know, there are people out here making it as a professional artist. You have Kyle Ma, and there's another one we were talking about yesterday, Zhen Xin Yao. He's another great Taiwanese artist, and you guys are both pretty young, and I'm sure there's a lot more others. And I'm just excited to connect to and introduce to a lot more people and let them know you even more, and even the people in Taiwan. So here's last 2 minutes for you to kind of almost do a shout out to the young aspiring artists in Taiwan to kind of help them to know where to go about if they decide to pursue art. I mean, not everybody can just pack up and move here like you did,
Yeah.
but there are things that they can do because you did grow up there at between 5 and 10. That's 5 years where you establish your interest and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
here's your 2 minutes shout out for those young artists.
Well, so I don't exactly know like how the art market or education works in Taiwan, but I think nowadays we're seeing so many resources online, like including this Sentient Academy. So I think if there's any like Taiwanese watching who's interested in going into arts, there's don't be afraid to just jump in and like use these free resources and try to reach out to people. A lot of artists are willing to help. Just try to get to know people who are involved in the art world, and not necessarily because like you want something out of it, but just because you want to like actually get to know and get to know these people. So yeah, so I guess thank you very much for inviting me to talk here, and I guess also like a final point is that you can see based on our conversation, if you have other passions that are outside of art, um, I think it's gonna be really great if you could find a way to connect your passions, like find some kind of connection from art to the other aspects of your life, and I think that's gonna really enrich your artwork. So
Very great advice. And thank you guys for watching. And we'll be having a lot more artist interviews like this, and just really a great thank you to Kyle. Thank you so much for your time, and we just can't wait to see what you